So here's the deal. I tied the knot with Miss America's ex Beau. And let me tell you, for me, I felt like I won the lottery. I may not have that crown on my head, but honey, I got a king by my side. Who's that, Miss America? I got a Southern gentleman that'll make your heart skip a beat. So if y'all ever see a pageant queen, young or old, with a broken heart, tell her to keep on believing and begin living like a winner. Y'all don't be jealous. Just grab yourself a slice of that Southern charm and live your best life. Well, I can't tell you how tickled I am for today because this iconic woman who had an incredible influence on my life has agreed to share her incredible journey. And I started out with Representative Rita Allison before she was Representative Rita Allison. And everybody knows and loves Rita, but we started out in the pageant world together. And she was one of my bridesmaids in my wedding. And I love Rita. And we all are so thankful that we have had our hearts touched by a true servant, someone who's such a giver, beautiful inside out. And I am so thrilled that she's my friend and my bridesmaid. I'm going to bring Rita in. It's going to be fun. All right, here we go. Hey there.
Hello there. Listen, for everything that you think I did for you, let me tell you, you touched me in so many ways. It was not only great to go to Atlantic City with you and go through that whole experience, but then to come home and for you to find that special young man and us to be able to see you go through that wonderful thing and build this great life that you have and career. I'm very proud of you, Jane Jenkins.
Well, Rita, when I think of you, I walk taller and I stand like a pageant girl. It's because every time it just clicks in like that. We could talk for hours about everything because we've been talking.
I know. There's just so many stories to be told about the fun times that we had. And I just remember, your daddy and your mother in Atlantic City. And I remember coming to your mother's house. And, I really hadn't visited the Low Country that much and all. And it was just such a warm feeling that took you back sort of into history and that kind of thing and all. And just such gracious people. You grew up in great surroundings, those good Southern surroundings.
I'm telling you, it was. And I remember when you came into that room and just totally gorgeous as you still are. And you made the comment that, and my heart leaped, and it said, one of you, this sounds like this was 1,000 years ago, Rita. So one of you will be crowned Miss South Carolina 1980. And I thought, I just pray it's me. And it was.
Yes, it absolutely was. And you had a wonderful year. And I remember on the night of, besides the fact that you woke up every 5 minutes and wanted to know why they didn't crown you, with all that you had done. And as I had said earlier and just chit-chatting, you were one of those who had such a passion to prepare yourself, not only for your music and your talent and all, but you worked out all the time to get your physical body in shape. Not that it wasn't in shape to begin with, but you did everything that you could do. So I can understand when in anything in life, when you give it 100%, it's a little hard to take when you don't. But you came home, and as I've said before, many of you who did not wear the crown came home to a much more successful life than some of those who either didn't want the crown or it wasn't what they thought when they got it. And then they came home and it felt like that they, had to start all over again. You had so much going for you. And the thing about you, Jane, is that you have used your passion to continue to grow. And I think that's so important for all of us. I had a lunch today with a gentleman who is a little younger than I am, and he has a project that he wanted me to look at education wise for teaching 4-year-olds math and making it, because today our young people don't know how to use their checkbook. They don't know how to use their credit card. But he was going through all of that. And he said it is so important to have a passion about what you do. And I've always said to young people when I speak to them, I don't care if you dig ditches. You need to have a passion that you want to get up every morning and dig that ditch and,
Hmm.
and see the results. You have used your talents and all to do that. And I'm so proud of what you've done and accomplished. And I'm just proud of your life, period.
Well, speaking of that's so sweet, Rita. What I love about you and always love when we met, you've always had the theme of your life as empowering people. And you, when the genesis of this, it was in the pageant world because you escorted how many of us? Did you say 20,
30.
30,
The
30?
30, actually, there were 28 that I went to 28 of you that I went to Atlantic City with. And then I went to Las Vegas with one, but they didn't have chaperones then. They did away with that. And then I did Claudia Turner Wells, who I didn't go to Atlantic City with, but I traveled with her all year long. And we traveled into about 25 different states. If you remember, she became the opening act on the college tour for Bob Hope. She opened up
Yes,
for Bob Hope on all the college tours, and we traveled to all of those. And
she
God
was
bless her
amazing.
soul. Yeah, we
Yes, I know. But
love
then you have segued in serving in the state government as a wonderful representative in your district. And how long did you serve, Rita?
I served in the House a little over 25 years. I served 5 years in the executive branch with Governor Sanford as his education advisor and then as his legislative liaison. I served 10 years in the House and then ran for lieutenant governor, was not elected, didn't win that crown.
But you
But
didn't wake me up going, "Why did I win, Jane?"
when I wasn't elected, I thought that's it for politics. But then Governor Sanford called and asked me to go on his transition team, which I did. Uh, and when he was sworn in, he asked me to come as his education advisor. And also later, I was the liaison with the House and the governor's office. And then the gentleman that had the district that I had served decided to retire, and some of the constituents came and said, you're in Columbia. Why don't you think about serving us again? So Ron and I sat down and talked about it. Katina was on her own then. And also I went back into the House and in all have served a little over 25 years.
Great day.
Oh,
And now you're on the board of the South Carolina Education
the
Board.
Governor Sanford, he has one appointment for the State Board of Education, and I was honored to be asked to serve on that. And so I am serving a 4-year term on that as his appointee. And
You'll be
we
the chair next year, correct?
be
Aren't
the
you?
no, in 24, Dr. O'Shields, David O'Shields will be the chair, and then I'll pick up the next year. I'm chair elect right now.
That really,
So
that's just incredible. That's see, you talk about how you've seen me, but I listen, I watch you and you keep striving and never quit. And you have always been a busy person, but your busyness has been more in a philanthropic arena, which just touches my heart so much. And you mentioned Ron, golly, such great memories of Ron. And I
I know.
just what a loss that was, and I know particularly for you and sweet Katina, but gosh, I miss him too. He was I'll have to tell the story about what he did at Miss America.
Oh, there's no telling because
Oh
while
gosh.
I was chaperoning, he
Oh,
was having lots of fun. In fact, on my refrigerator is the cutest picture of him all decked out on a bicycle because he would ride a bicycle in the Miss America parade. And the first year I had no idea. And they let you all were in the parade and they let us sit chaperone area. So I'm sitting with South Carolina, and I look up, and there comes Ron down the street on a bicycle. But he was a piece of work. He really was. Enjoyed going and cheering his girl on, but at the same time having fun.
Well, what I love, you remember that little gizmo? He had those glasses that had the
Oh,
light,
yes.
and he had a
Yes.
clicker in his pocket. So every time he would see me around, like whether I was the year I was competing, and I came back a couple of times to enjoy it, but he clicked that little button, and those little red lights would be.
Right, right.
Oh,
And he had that little animal that he carried. Was it a little squirrel that it was on his shoulder all the time? But he loved to do things like that. He really did.
and then
But
bless his heart, I broke his heart. I know I broke his heart. You remember my car was filthy, my little Miss South
yes,
Carolina car, and Ron
yes.
spent hours washing it to surprise me. And I was going to a speaking engagement, and I got lost and ended up in a mud pit, and I spun that little car around.
Yeah, he loved to keep his cars clean. In fact, people would stop by our house and they would say, Ron, when are you going to sell that car? Because I'd like for you to call me when you're, because his cars were as good when he sold them as they were when he bought them. He was something else about his cars. And I still have the little red Thunderbird that he had purchased some time back and everything. And we had it cleaned up the other day. Somebody called and said, what about the parade? We need a little red car. So, we've kept those kind of things and all. But yeah, he loved his girls. He loved going to Atlantic City and supporting them and all. And he's and having a girl was great. Yep,
Oh gosh.
that worked out great.
And speaking of Tina, I got so tickled at her because you remember when y'all came up here to see this house when it was, I've got a
Yes,
picture of it. I might throw it up there. It was the worst looking thing. I mean, you know, so I
she
remember
could
Katina
not
was
be.
so little.
She was so
Katina,
let down.
oh my gosh, she was so, yeah, oh yeah. And then she looked at me and had this look of horror on her little face and looked up at me and said, where are you going to buy groceries?
I went, where are you going to buy groceries? And she said, Mama, is Miss Jane going to really live in that house? And of course, I'm glad she saw it today because it's absolutely gorgeous. It
Gosh,
is.
I was telling somebody, you don't know what you're getting because Thomas and I, that was another thing, had a whirlwind romance. And I tell the story and to put you in the center of it when I speak. And the punchline is I didn't win Miss America, but I married her boyfriend.
Boyfriend.
And you were sick, and it was after Miss America, and I had met Thomas via the phone because he introduced me. I did see him one time. He introduced me at the Francis Marion Hotel when I was Miss Charleston, and Mama was by me, and he said, "Please welcome the newly crowned Miss Charleston," like that. Mama said, "Oh, he dropped his R. Oh, he dropped his R." And he precious and all that stuff. So then I called him because the JCs wanted a judge. And I said, oh, that cute guy, this farmer. So when I called him up and I said, well, what have you been doing? And he said, and I quote, artificially inseminating my beef cattle. So
And you knew right then.
I said, oh, I found the love of my life. I thought that was the weirdest guy I think I've ever talked to. What do you say after that? Of course,
Yep.
move on to after Miss America. And then you called me and you were sick. And you said that Thomas Herlong, and you kind of were the one, Rita, you stoked the flames. So Thomas Herlong said you could sit by him, and I was dating Jerry, the astronaut.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that was another thing you said to me. Well, I'm back. Let me go forward. And so I told you, I said, well, did you tell him that I'm in a relationship? And she said, you said, oh, he's in a relationship too. And I said, yeah, with a bunch of cows, apparently, because he's artificially inseminating them. And you said, no, honey, he's dating somebody. I said, well, who's this little pitiful girlfriend? I've added to this, Rita, in case you don't recognize it anymore.
No, I recognize it.
Okay. And you said, Miss America, the girl that beat you.
Beat
I went,
you. And guess what? That sparked the frames right there.
Oh my gosh. And so and here I am engaged a week later. Oh my
That's
gosh.
right. Is that not something? That
Isn't
was
that
a
crazy?
quick love at first sight.
I know. And then he calls me and says, Jane, this is your fiance, Thomas. I went, oh, hello. And he said, I bought an old house. And I said, really? He said, it's old. I said, well, how much was it? He said, $500. You remember
Jane,
that?
are you kidding?
Yeah. Well, the
He
guy gave it
really?
to us. We just had to move it, off the
Oh, that's
property.
right. Because when we
Yeah.
saw it, it had recently been moved,
Yeah.
and it really looked like it had been moved, and that's why Katina was so. What
Destroyed.
she was like 5 or 6 years old,
Yeah.
and oh, she couldn't get over that. She talked all the way home about Miss Jane living in that house.
It was scary. It
Mhm.
was a ghost house. It'd been abandoned for 20 years. So anyway, that was the journey of the house and how much now the house owns us. In fact, you can see people in the background going upstairs. We're just fixing a bathroom. But what I wanted to talk about, Rita, and a lot of people don't get this, pageants have just really gotten a bad rap. And you've been involved for so long and been such a gift to so many. And you and I talked about this briefly of how it's changed so much and what we
It
think the
has.
future might be.
Well, I don't know about the future, but the thing that when we were so invested in the pageant and everything, it was sort of a self development for young women and an
Mhm.
empowerment for young women. It gave them a venue for their talent and, their future and that kind of thing and all. And it, it was just really, and girls felt very, secure with all that was going on and that kind of thing. And today it's just I think it's changed hands several times. uh Sometimes people can really mess up a good thing, and I think it's changed hands so many times. People have gotten too possessive of certain things and saw things in a different light and left the young lady out of it. It's that kind of thing. So, it became a money thing with being on television. They required more for the young women to do things. Not that there was anything wrong with going out and doing community service and that kind of thing, but raising monies and stuff like that. So I think all of that has been a culmination of getting the bad rap and that kind of thing. With it not being on national TV, on one of the major stations and that kind of thing. It's still one of the largest scholarship programs for young women in the nation, along with Miss USA and Miss Universe and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of young women have completed their education completely on scholarships that they won from the local to the national level. So I'm hoping, and I understand that a lady from Florida has now purchased and bought the Miss America program. And I hope that it can go back. With a lot of people said, well, it had to change because of television. Well, it was an institution and people were really invested in it. So sometimes change is not good. You have to look at, is change good for the future, or should we keep some of the things that we did? But a program that empowers young women and gives them a venue for their talent and their knowledge and that kind of thing has always been a great institution. And I hope that it can find its way back to all of those virtues for young women.
So Rita, when you think about that part of your life, which was so instrumental in all of our lives, and so then you journeyed into state government, and you've seen over your career, you have seen so many things. And as people look at our education system, not just in the state, because I know you have um, a global and a national view. What are you seeing now? What's going on, and the good, the bad, and the ugly? What are some things that you like, you dislike, and you're concerned about, or that's really putting you on the spot? But I think it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about the system, that our system of education.
Well, I think, when I was growing up and when you were growing up, um, parents taught morals and values at home.
Mm-hmm.
The education system was called on to teach the academics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, those kind of things. And that parallel went on for a long time, very successful. Today, society calls on the education system to raise the child. And
Mm-hmm.
that can be unfortunate because you're asking someone to almost raise your child, to give them medicine at school, to teach them character at school, to teach them the academics at school, to teach sex education at school, all of those things. But then you complain about what they're teaching, and it has become a very controversial situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I think parents are in and should be in charge. In fact, there's a national group called parental rights. And I agree with many, many things that they say, but I want them to say parental rights and responsibility. Uh, I think that parents are the first teachers. Parents should always be the teachers. And as long as they have those children in their school, they need to be in their house. They should be teaching their children their morals and the values of life. And when they go to school, we should call on the school, whether it's public, private, or parochial, to teach them the academics of today. And that is, we have sex education in schools because parents, think about it. We would not have had to do that if parents were teaching sex education at home. We should not have to be doing that. Academically is what schools are responsible for and should be. But I think all of those type things have fallen short, which now our education system has become under siege. We need good teachers out there. We have a retention and recruitment problem with people going into teaching. A young person will look at teaching long and hard if parents are saying, I don't want you to go into teaching. So, it's that kind of thing that is going on it's going on in our world today. It's not just in South Carolina, it's all over. And I think we need, as adults, to step back and take a look at, the things. We went through a whole situation of woke society, books in libraries, in schools, in our city libraries. We've gone through sex education. We've gone through the LGBTQ. Everything has gotten so convoluted now that everybody feels like they have to pick a side instead of being a society that can live together, and everybody has their responsibility to raise a child. If you're going to have a child, raise the child with the morals and the values that you have, and expect the school to teach them the academics of today. And I think if we all work together in that kind of thing, we could have a much more successful thing instead of inwardly fighting. And actually, when we are fighting as we are today, it's the child that's losing out on so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rita, why do you think so many teachers just jump ship or either get into the profession, start to teach, and then say, I can't do this anymore? I mean, I've got friends that have commented about like massive amount of paperwork, massive amount of responsibility. What are you seeing?
I think both of those things are true. We had a ad hoc committee that traveled the state and listened to teachers. And, most people say, well, naturally, money is important for quality of life for everybody. So if you're doing a job, you want to feel that you are earning that money, and that money is there to earn. So I think salaries, the state of South Carolina has been working very hard to get their salaries up. The
Yeah.
governor is saying, we want to hit 50,000. But more than that, we heard discipline. We heard lack of support from administration.
Mm-hmm.
I have one child acting out in class with 19 others, and I have to give all my attention to that one acting out. So I send them to the office. They're back in the classroom with a slip of paper. Lack of support, um, discipline, like you said, too much paperwork. I want to close the door and teach what I have been taught to teach. That we heard that so many times and that kind of thing. So I think, with teaching getting a bad rap, a lot of parents don't encourage their young people to go into detention. And then the other thing is that as soon as they get their years in, they just don't want to have to put up with all of that that's going on in schools today. The responsibilities, the extra work, no time, and that kind of thing. And a lot of times it's about leadership in a school. If you've got good leadership in a school, uh, people are going to love to work. It's that way in any job. If you've got good leaders in your job, then people are going to want to work and do for you. So I think it's all of that. We've got great schools in South Carolina. We've got some schools that need to be shored up. We've got great leaders. We have some leaders that probably shouldn't be in education.
Mm-hmm.
And, teachers who are that it's their calling, while we
Yeah.
have others that can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's that culmination, but it would be that way in any profession. Doctors have gone through that kind of situation
Mm-hmm.
of their practice being bought out by big, healthcare systems and that kind of thing. And afraid of being sued, just all of that kind of societal things that have brought about the discord of
Yeah.
not being able to live together. But I still go back to just the very simple. Parents need to have rights, but they need to have responsibilities. And those responsibilities are teach your children the morals and the character and the values, and send them to school and have them abide by that. Hopefully that would help also, and let teachers teach the academics to their students.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think most people agree with that. And it's so wonderful to hear that. I guess the disconnect is in principle, 100%. In practice, that's where the disconnect
Right,
is for
right.
sure. You know, I always like to tell my children, whatever you get in trouble at school, you're gonna get trouble at home. I
Yeah,
mean, if I get a
that
phone
is so
call,
true.
you
Right.
gonna get it. And so I remember when Holmes was he was my cutter, still is.
Yeah.
Oh my thank goodness. He just makes me laugh. And I'll never forget Connie taught him English and carpool line I hated. Oh, I thought here they come again. Here they come again. And
Uh-huh.
Connie leans in the car and she said Holmes made a 38 on his Shakespeare test. And I said, was it out of 40? Praying that it was out of 40. And they said, no. And his answers are horrible. Of course, I'm always looking for material. So I had to really calm down because I'm thinking, I hope this is good. And they
Right.
said, here's the question. Name Shakespeare's three brothers. And Holmes wrote down Huey, Louie, and Dewey.
Oh,
And I'm dying going, God, that's really funny. And Connie's staring at me, didn't think it was funny. And then they said, where's Shakespeare buried? And he wrote in the dirt, that kind of stuff. I mean,
I
but
know it. I mean, it is. But teachers would work with you on that.
oh
They
yeah.
would work with. A cute little thing is our youngest grandchild came home the other day, and the principal had called, and she said, usually after one phone call, I don't have to call again, but um, your your grandson, I'm not calling his name, your grandson kissed a little girl on the cheek, and then she kissed him back on the cheek. So my daughter texted him and said, you come straight home. Why did you do this? And he got home and he said, well, Mother, I have had a girlfriend for 2 months. And he said, I kissed her on the cheek. She kissed me on the cheek. Well, it's no touching whatsoever and that kind of thing. But behind his back, we laughed like 90 because he said, well, I've had a girlfriend for 2 months, but we
Well,
didn't know anything about it.
well, let me tell you, speaking of that triggers a memory. And Holmes was in the first grade. And I remember he always says, Mama, it's a wonder I made it through school not being bullied and called a sissy when you had white knee socks, white shoes, and a sailor suit on me. He looked so cute. He had little blonde curls. And the teacher came up in this little sweet thing in my little rearview mirror. And she said, I want you to know he pinched me on my behind today and called me sugar. I thought, oh my gosh. And I said, Holmes, why did you do that? And I said, and I didn't know what to say. I was going, you just can't do that. And he said, the little voice said, when can I? Because I really liked it.
Oh,
What? I said, this. I got to take you to your daddy. We got to explain something. I mean, it was so funny. I see that teacher all the time. And I say, wasn't that funny? And she said, not really. So, so you got to have a good sense of humor when you're in the
yes, you
classroom.
have. If you're in the
Let me tell you
classroom,
my
you've got
stupid
that.
thing I did. Caroline was in, no, it was Caroline. She was in like K4. And so I got the list from the teacher of the things that the children need, and one was glue sticks. And I said, oh, I got so many of those. So I gathered them all together and took them hot glue sticks, hot. And I handed it to this teacher. And she could have been my child because I mean, I was older. It took me a while to get to the parenting stage. And she looked at me and said, I just don't think our babies are going to be using a hot glue gun. I felt so stupid. And then all of a sudden, the humor part of me kicked in. I said, oh, I'm so sorry that your babies are not as advanced as my child is. And so I've
Well,
got so many crazy stories like that.
I remember distinctly when I was in high school, and this girlfriend of mine, we decided that we wanted to go out to eat instead of eating in the cafeteria. So we made up a little story about headache, had to have medicine or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And we borrowed Dr. Brooks. You remember Carolyn and Brookie?
Oh, yes.
He was the only person with a car, and he had this big Buick. We borrowed his car and went to the drive-in and got something to eat, pouring rain. And on the way back, we thought we'd got to eat and get rid of this stuff before we get back to school. We went down a little dirt road and got to the end of the road, and there was a little creek with no bridge. And we said, we can go across it. So we go across and got stuck and got back to the school so late that our teachers had sent a note home. That note got home before I did that day, because they sent notes out then.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you were out or late, they sent a note out. So they sent a note to my mother, and I'll never forget. I don't think I got to do anything for a month. And Brookie's car, we had to walk and get somebody to come and pull us out of that little stream of water. And then we had to take it and get it washed because it was all muddy and everything.
Well, I
But
bet y'all were just little rock stars when you got back to school, little bad girls. I love that.
yeah, we were. And like I said, that note got home before I did. And
I love that. It's so funny because when you think back on so many things that have become iconic stories in our lives, and I mean, I can think of a gazillion pageant stories. Like, I remember, I don't think you ever escorted me to, I don't think you did. I emceed the Cotton Festival pageant, with the Queen of Cotton in
is that
Bishopville.
in Bishopville?
Yes. And we
Uh-huh.
used to have so many fun festivals like
Oh, I
that,
know it.
Rita.
The Sun Fun Festival and the Flower
Yes.
Festival. So what did
Yes.
you do? What
Well,
did
I
you do?
emceed the pageant, and there were moths all over. They looked like
really like the size of my phone. I mean, it really looked like airplanes. And they were just flying. Well, because the cotton, the cotton was everywhere. And the
Right.
moths were. And I remember I used to open every time I emceed a lot. And I would open by telling the same joke. And I just happened to have the same set of judges. And they were so bored with the same story. And it's about the old preacher that would quote a scripture for everything and anything that happened in the church. And somebody broke their leg and he just came right out with something, it was amazing. And they were having revival and he was pounding on the podium and a big old bug came and flew in his mouth. And they all laughed, knowing he swallowed hard, coughed, carried on. And they just said, well, there's no way he's going to come up with the scripture. And sure enough, he swallowed. He came up for air and he said, friends, a stranger came, but I took him in. So Rita, I told that and I could see my judges going,
Oh, no.
They
They'd heard it before.
Yeah, but the thing that happened to me was one of those big old moths came and flew in my mouth when I was telling the same story. And I could feel it fluttering. And there was just one thing I could do. It was horrible. I had to swallow because I couldn't get it out. And they were laughing so hard. And afterwards, they said, thank goodness you changed up that story and acted it out. I said, acted it out? I actually swallowed a moth. I know you got some stories on the road with all of us crazy.
Oh, yeah. I was with one of you in, we went to Myrtle Beach and they put us in this little small motel. And that night we had seen a lizard go up the wall and I couldn't go to sleep and they didn't have vending machines. So we put on our robes and called the front desk and said, could you bring us a pack of crackers and a drink? So this knock on the door and this guy brought that. And so we finally ate and everything and got in bed and a fly or a mosquito flew in my ear. And I mean, it went down in the ear and I pressed it because it was buzzing like 90. And of course, when I got home, I had to go to the ENT and get the all washed out and all that kind of thing. But some of those kind of stories, of just staying in these little dumpy hotels and motels and that kind of thing. But they were so much fun and laughed and carried on, and that kind of thing. And I know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I remember, a lot of people are so fondly remember Jeannie Robertson and a lot, and I know you loved her. We all loved her. In fact, I've got a show coming up with her son. And
wonderful.
Beaver. Yeah, he was great. He was absolutely delightful. But so I am thinking this is a story. And those of you watching who follow Jeannie, let me know if I'm wrong about this. But it seems like when she was Miss North Carolina, there was a very formal banquet and a bowl was put down for washing hands and before during the meal. And so the little bowl came and she was at the head table. And I think this is correct that this happened to Jeannie. And everybody was waiting on her. And she had never seen anything like that, did not know what to do. So as the story goes, I think she picked it up and sipped it like it was. Is that right? Was that Jeannie?
But I was with you. I mean, I wasn't with you, but as you were telling the story, I thought that's what she's going to do.
Yeah, and everybody else did the same thing. They picked up their bowl just to. She was the honored guest. But Rita, I remember with me, I had all these Christmas parades. And it started in the upstairs. Christmas was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of parades. But I remember the first one I was in, this guy said, I was supposed to be the grand marshal. And he just told me, he said, well, we love you, but you're not going to be the most important part of this parade at the grand marshal, but you're going to ride in the most important part of the parade. And there was a purple sanitation truck they were so proud of. So I had to ride in first
In
gear
the sanitation.
in this purple, and my crown was going, "Ang, ang, ang," and I remember I had a little sore spot up here. It was funny.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, I had so many crazy things happen. And after that, I was behind I had to walk behind some beefalo. And I mean, people were saying, Miss South Carolina. I'm thinking, I ain't looking right or left. I'm looking, and
Right.
Kimberly and I were talking about some of those stories, but then I got pulled on my way home and I'd taken off my makeup. And the guy was about to give me a ticket and he gave me a warning. I was so glad. And I handed him my official photograph like an idiot. Like I
I
looked.
remember that. I
And, then,
remember that.
and he looked at it and looked at me, he looked back, he said, "Doggone, you know her."
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that was
was
so much fun. But we
were
and
you
then
with me? Were you was I with you when we went to Camden and did a show? And we did it in their old armory, of which they had turned into a sort of a event theater type thing. We were on stage and everything, and it had this humongous chandelier hanging. And about halfway through our show, that chandelier fell. It seemed like that was something with you in
I
Camden because it was something that Jack had.
oh goodness, Jack, gracious, in that Miss America room.
Oh, I know, with all the satin pillows and all
And
that kind of
the
stuff.
names on, and I'll tell you, this is crazy. And I probably shouldn't even talk about it. This was the funniest thing. We were trying so hard to start a family and we were going to a fertility doctor and we had the basal thermometer. Well, we were spending the night with Jack, and that basal thermometer said ding, ding, ding. And so
Were you in the Miss America room?
In the Miss America room. And lo and behold, next time I saw Jack, I said, "Jack, I'm expecting." He said, "Well, Lord, it's about time." He was making up the Miss America bed. And I said, "You'll never believe where the blessed event took place."
And he loved that, didn't
Oh,
he?
Lord. He looked at me and said, "Oh, Lord, I thought y'all were reading a book." Oh, God. Jack has so many friends that love him dearly and talk about practical jokes. So Jack said, "Jane, I don't even remember renting my room. I've got a woman that's sleeping in my bed." I said, "What?" He said, I just don't recall that. And so he said, "Can you peek in and see if she stirred?" And I opened the door in same position, this blonde hair. I said, "Jack, she hadn't moved." And then he said, "I got to get in there and get my clothes. I've got stuff I got to do." And I had to leave too. And he said, "I hate to ask you this, but can you just tap her on the shoulder or something? I hope she's not sick." I mean, we had this big discussion with Rita. I went in there and I squeezed her shoulder. I heard, ee, ee. It was a blow up doll. And
Did
it
he
was,
do that to you?
no, somebody did it to him. And
Oh,
when we pulled the covers back, I must say, someone went to great lengths to get the most inappropriate blow up doll you could.
I thought
And
maybe he might have done that.
oh no, somebody
friend
did it
of
to him. Oh my gosh. But we laughed so hard about that blow up doll. It scared me to death. Like, ee, ee, like that, because it was a squeak doll, it was just
Oh
this
my
big
God.
oh, I
He was
miss those days.
one.
Gosh.
Oh, I know it. We had so much fun.
And
so
also with
good.
Susan Connolly
Oh
in
gosh, yes.
Lancaster. Oh,
Loved. And she loved to throw parties and loved to have, everybody down. Yeah. We had a great group of people that we grew through with the pageants and
we
everything.
did. I would
Hmm.
MC Susan's pageant in Lancaster, and she got those kids worked up into such a frenzy with all those prizes. Her favorite thing to do before I announced the winner of Wee Miss, Little Miss, or Teeny
Uh-huh.
Wee Miss, or whatever, was to get on a little tricycle and ride it across the stage, and all those little girls would squeal.
Yeah, those were the days as it goes. It
I
really
remember
was.
too. I think I was in Anderson emceeing Miss Anderson, and I was yeah, I had on false eyelashes. I was so proud of myself because I finally figured out how to put them on. Because one time I had on a pair And I was in the Beaufort Water Festival doing quarter turns. And of course, that outside, and I didn't know how to put on. So my eyelash blew in Miss Myrtle Beach's hair, just sitting there.
Terrible.
She was blonde. And there was my eyelash. There's nothing I could do. So I'm emceeing Miss Anderson pageant. I couldn't find my eyelashes. Well, the maid pulverized them and threw them in the toilet because I had to spend 2 nights. So, but that particular pageant, I had to laugh because I was working. Remember, I worked with Alice Chalmers Tractor Company.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I had a cassette show tape, which I'm dating myself, and there was a medley called "Let Me Be There, You Needed Me," and we had a filler, and it was in that song was positioned on that show tape, and I think after that song, no, right before it was Get Going with the Gleaner Combine that I did in my, well, I forgot to rewind the tape.
Oh no, and it came up.
Needed me. And so that was the song after that. So here I am. Oh, y'all are beautiful. And just to be special and to share this love you have before we announce the new Miss Anderson. I have a song. And I heard dun, 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 and I went right into Alice Chalmers mode. And I sang Get Going with the Gleaner Combine. It was crazy.
I know. But we just went with the times, didn't we? And it was
Yeah.
great. It really
And
was. There was
and the
just so
fact
much.
that you grew with us and helped us grow as women that represented our state. And you have you look at what Dawn Smith Jordan has done.
Oh yeah. Kimberly. I mean,
Okay.
we have school teachers, we have band directors. I mean, we've had a good, I heard from the first girl that I went to Atlantic City with. I thought I was really on a roll. She was first runner up, and then gosh, what was the girl's name from Rock Hill? The next year was second runner.
Lavinia
Lavinia
Cox.
was my first. Lavinia was my first.
Yeah. Kathy
And
Henson.
and then Kathy Henson was the second. And I thought, boy, I am on a roll here. We're really going. But just the greatest, And like I said, I was in your wedding, but I was also in Claudia Turner Wells' wedding. There's stories to be told. There really
I
are.
know. I
Those
love that.
they were great. They
Well,
were
I'm
great.
so, we talk about Sweet J Pitts and love
Oh
that
yeah.
his whole
Love
family and what
that.
they meant. That's something that I don't think people realize. I tell people, y'all don't understand what pageants have done for so many women. I said, because, and I know you've coached, Louie, because you had the school and you would help young women develop when they were, preteen and teen, and the dance. Did you have the dance school as well? I can't
We
remember.
did. I didn't teach dance, but I had others that taught
And then
dance.
you were so good to your mama. You would have the senior. I would see you go from the young kids, nurturing them, and then you go into
The
senior citizen with
retirees.
your mama. Yeah.
I tripped with them all over the United States and Canada. But we, as I said earlier, the thing that has meant so much to me is to watch you all grow into the young women that you are, and the mothers and the career women and everything. And even those who did not win Miss America have gone on just like you to have an absolutely wonderful, not only home life and children and that kind of thing, but your careers have flourished and all, and you've had such a passion. And you have said this yourself, so many things I learned along the way of being in those pageants have helped me where I am today. And I think
Very
that is
true.
true. Yeah. Your
Well,
talent, your
yeah, and
passion, your characters.
it's so true. And I have a whole speech, and I call it "You Can't Put High Heels on a Holstein: Backstage Lessons to Use in Your Life for the Front Stage of Success." And a friend of mine who's brilliant with stories, and Kelly Swanson, amazing. She kind of helped me come up with this. But I talk about, and I did read. I was at a conference, and I have very high profile speakers that we had to pitch new ideas to. And I said, y'all, I want to talk about what I learned being in the Miss America pageant. They went, what? That's just lame. I went, no, 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 no. You tell me one thing you had to do to get on the platform to be as successful as you are. And somebody said, oh, I had to learn to be a really good communicator. I said, that's interview. And I
Right.
said, what else? I said, well, I've had to really work on my physical fitness. I said, lifestyle and fitness, that would be swimsuit. And then the
Right.
other one said, oh, I always think you need to give back. And I said, we all have the philanthropic end of us. And,
Right.
oh, I've worked on my wardrobe. Well, that would be gown and presents. I said, you can't tell me those 4 principles haven't made a mark. And I don't know how many times you've had this happen, but a young girl that goes through the program and would come up to me, didn't win, but boy, did she win later in life. She landed
Right.
the best dang job she could possibly have gotten. And
Sure.
it's because halfway through the interview, many girls have said this to me, many young women, they said, the guy looked at me and said, you got this job. Where did you learn how to talk like this? And they would say, I went into competition in the pageant world. And,
Right.
that's the net of it. It's not that 1 year of skills. It's the skills you learned that year that you can take to the next level of your life.
Well, and I think serving as a queen on the local level, getting out, meeting people, networking with people, that kind of thing, you build your own confidence, and then you have a passion for other people too, because you see your state as it is, the good, bad, and different, and you want to make a difference and those kind of things. So yeah, it teaches you. It is uh, life learning
Oh, it
for
is.
any woman that goes in
And,
it for that reason.
and my friend Dale, she and I both said that's all we had. That's all we had was pageants. If
Mm-hmm.
we could improve ourselves from the inside out, and if we could hone our skills, learn how to dress, learn how to communicate, and get a college scholarship. Hello. I mean, I went to graduate school on my scholarship, but we said that's all there was nothing else available to us. So we took
Right.
advantage of that part of us. And I always said that Miss America represented everything I wasn't, but I wanted to become. And that's a very strong statement. And you, Rita, have been instrumental in helping so many of us. You blazed that trail for us so we could pursue our dreams and our professions and thrive in our role representing the state for that one very special year. And I love you for it.
Well, I love you too, because like I said earlier, I feel like there's a piece of you and all of the others that is with me every day. And you and I both have a mutual friend in Karen Floyd, who has Elysian Magazine, which is a national magazine, and she just had the rollout, and you were one of her women of distinction, and you travel to those showings and everything. She's getting ready for a thing at the Kennedy Center with her whole thing on Ukraine and women, all about women in Ukraine and that kind of thing. And it's people like that are constantly giving back, and that's what I love about those of you that I had an opportunity and an honor to be with, is that you were willing to learn and hone your own talents and all, but you were always willing to give back too.
And I appreciate you introducing me to Karen, Rita, because that was a gift. And I was in New York with
Yes.
the fur baby cat, that was it Catwalk Fur Baby, that was so raising
Yes.
money for shelters across the world. Karen's amazing. And I know she's in Aspen, I believe, but I am planning on going to Kennedy
Just got
Center.
back.
Yeah,
I
I
am
want to
too.
see that. Oh, good. Well, we can room together and we can reminisce. And
Yes, that would be great.
I will not wake you up and go, Rita, why didn't I win? Jane, that was 40 years ago. Well, I love
Every
you,
5
honey.
minutes.
Oh,
Every 5 minutes. So
yes, bless your heart.
I
So
know
why you
it.
didn't just smother me and say, shut up?
We were so tired. We were
Oh, God.
giggly, and that kind of thing. So it made a difference, but it does. But I think if you look back now you know why.
Oh, I do.
You
And
ever
then my
thought
mother
about
was,
that?
Yeah, Mama was a big help because at the Miss America breakfast, I was just so emotional. And she looked at me and she said, "All right, dry up. You look stupid. Blow your nose. We're going to gamble. Bye. Deal with it."
I love them. They were just straightforward and they
Oh, did
came
they ever?
supported, but they didn't get caught up in all of it in the
Oh no,
rhetoric.
honey, they didn't care. They just going to go
No,
enjoy Atlantic City because
yep,
it
yep.
was fun. Well, I love you,
It
Rita.
was.
We're at the top of this hour, and I hate that I'm even have to edit some of this great stuff out because it's so good.
Well,
But I
please
sure
do
love you,
edit
honey.
some of it out. Because, I mean, the first part that I really got into and all, I thought we were on. You should have
I
told me it was
know.
going to
I
get on.
should have. I know that was some good stuff. I mean,
Well,
we had a memory lane that was long and wide and fun.
you check out March the 4th, let me know.
I got
And,
it. I got it down already. I
and
got it
you
down.
have a just wonderful holiday season and all those
You
who watch
too.
you, and just
Thank
a
you so
blessed
much.
Christmas.
Thank you,
And
y'all too. I know this is always a tough time with Ron
well,
not being.
anytime you know you have loss, it's all. And I'm trying to stay busy, and Katina's trying to keep me busy, and the boys are. And I'm just thankful for the time that I had, and I know I'm going to see him again one day.
Well, let me say too, there were things about Ron I did not know until the service, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful tribute to a wonderful man. And he just, I think back on my pageant days, and he's right at the top of just how much fun. I've got the best picture of you and Ron. I'm gonna put that up when I edit this. And you had on a gold sequin top, and Ron, it's the cutest picture. And Mama, Mama said, Rita looks like she won Miss America. You didn't look near that good.
I know that picture. I put that up one year when I think it was Miss America came up of a lot of you, and that's a special picture.
Oh, you look
But
fabulous.
I love you, and
I love you too.